Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today, before we do anything else, I want to announce the winner of a contest we had in social media a few weeks back. D-Pat's Photography actually ended up winning that contest. D-Pat's Photography is awesome. He's actually at some of the Outlaw Racing, Southern Rock Racing Series, and Pro Rock Racing events. He takes awesome pictures for the off-road world. I highly suggest you guys check him out at dpatsphotography.com. He is on Facebook and Instagram as well. We will actually be hosting and are currently hosting another social media contest where you can get in and get your shout out, get some representation on the podcast. It's really cool. You can find it in our Instagram bio. You can find it on our main post on our Facebook page. What we're doing is we're gathering a bunch of gear from a bunch of different race teams. We're actually starting to gather parts that are going in this giveaway too. This week we added a 1000 XP RZR drivetrain belt to go into that. So the winner will just get that for free. So shout out to everyone who's already signed up. If you haven't signed up, check out the Instagram, Facebook. Like I said, it's on there. We've made it pretty clear to go sign up for that competition. I highly recommend that you go like us, subscribe on YouTube or whatever platform you're listening on. It's awesome. It's great. I'm really excited. We got a ton of good feedback, a ton of good response, and we've actually got some really cool sponsors stepping on board here pretty soon. And one of our sponsors is Infinite Off-Road. Infinite Off-Road has a crazy warranty on their products. A 25-year, you break it, we replace it on all Infinite Off-Road branded products. That includes rock lights, wheel rings, power controllers for all their electronics, which include the UTV mirrors and grills with built-in lighting, high output light bars and pods, and the rock lights. Now, the rock lights are really unique. I kind of feel like I'm beating a dead horse because I really do believe in these products. I've seen these products work in person. I run their light bars on all my rigs, ran them on my Jeeps when I did Jeeps. But their rock lights specifically are red, green, blue, white rock lights. They are the actually only rock lights on the market that include a pure dedicated white emitter rather than mixing colors to create white. It's got twice the emitters, so you get twice the output, richer colors, and you get twice the widest patterns. It comes with a Bluetooth controller, a handheld remote, aluminum casing. You can mount this however. Mike, the owner of Infinite Off-Road, does a really good job of explaining where to put it, how to mount it. It mounts in there really easy. And I want to give a big shout out to Mike because his customer service is awesome. He's on Facebook, he's on Instagram, and he has a website, infiniteoffroad.com. Feel free, give him a shout. Go check it out, and if you guys buy something, tell him you guys came from the podcast, and that'll be really cool. Today on the show, we have Dustin Robbins, owner of AllThingzUTV. He actually just recently acquired a powder coating company as well, and most importantly, according to the podcast, Dustin's a avid racer in his brand new turbo that he's running. I can tell you, we talk a little bit about some things in the past, some things in the future. Dustin's got an awesome setup right now with the new acquisition of a brand new Turbo S. There's a little secret to where that Turbo S came from if you guys listen to the podcast in its entirety. But something really neat is Dustin talks about how he got to where he is, how he got to become successful. He's a great guy. He really is just a testament to being able to go out on your own and make things happen. But without giving too much away, Dustin Robbins, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy it.
Get a drink and gather round. Let's talk drivers. Let's talk rigs. Let's talk skill. You've got the best of the best in the off-road racing world. Have a seat at the table with us and let's talk about racing on the rocks.
Hey Dustin, how you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Good, man, good. I first and foremost want to thank you for coming on the show. One of the most important things to me is that we get a variety of drivers, and you're actually someone I wanted to talk to for a while. I saw you were out at King of Hammers, and I've actually purchased from your business before. So, just one of those guys that I really wanted to get a chance to sit down and talk with because you've got a unique experience. You're a driver, a retailer. You've kind of got You got your hand in everything, it seems like. So before we get into anything too crazy, let's talk about Dustin. Where are you guys based out of?
We're from North Alabama, Huntsville area.
Okay. Now, what races are you racing in this year? Because I know a lot of the races are either in Kentucky, Tennessee, or Alabama.
This year, I'm on contract with several sponsors to run some of the West Coast.
Oh.
Last year, we leave Saturday, March 16th to fly out to Southern California, and we're going to travel up the West Coast on a kind of a family vacation, and then we're going to end up at the Prairie City Off-Road Park to run the Metal Cloak Stampede Ultra4 West, the first round of the Ultra4 West.
So are you guys going to end up running, any more Ultra4 races other than that one segment?
We're going to run, like I said, I'm on contract to run several of the West. The way I've got my program set up was to run Metal Cloak Stampede, and I've got a race car out there that I planned to leave in Reno and then come back in October to race the Ultra4 finals. Yeah. And then I've got an East Coast race car, which is a 2019, that we're set up to run East Coast with. So I've got a car there and a car here.
Okay, awesome. That's a really good idea. So let's go ahead and let's talk about you again. I kind of jumped ahead because I wanted to know exactly where you guys normally operate out of. But how'd you get into racing? How'd you get into trail riding? Where did it all start for you?
I got a four-wheeler for my 4th birthday, and I started wrecking immediately.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Yeah.
My 5-year-old, she actually just got a 4-wheeler, and it's got one of those remote cutoffs. And anytime I have a fence, and anytime she gets close to my fence, I'm like slamming that cutoff button. So I can only imagine being 4 on one of those things.
Yeah, it was a Suzuki 50, and there was no remote shut off. It was you fall off, and then it rolls to a stop,
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you guys get into trail riding? Because obviously, 4 is a super young age. Were you guys out riding on trails at that age?
Man, personally, I was from a mixed family, and I think I started picking up scraps on a job site, for my stepdad was a contractor at 7.
Wow.
And then racing and trail riding was maybe once or twice a year, but it was I always longed to be out on the trail.
Yeah.
Dirt bikes on TV, Supercross back in the day, motocross race and stuff like that, just watching it on TV. And we would barter like a trail ride for blowing all the leaves or raking off all the leaves off the yard.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was always an insane amount of work to accomplish maybe a trail ride, which I always did. Me and my brother always did it.
Yeah.
But it was few and far between because we worked all the time. And even at 7, I didn't do much. I can't say that I was a hard laborer or broke any labor laws, but I was on the job site while they were working, and, they would pay me $13 a day or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's awesome.
The trail riding came in when I was able to drive. Actually, after I, pretty much when I got out of high school, I had to sell my first dirt bike to buy a truck. But I always bought on my own dirt bike. So I've been trail riding since I think I got my next dirt bike when I was for my 11th birthday.
Mm-hmm. What kind of bike was it?
It was a Suzuki DS80.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, so you got on the trail on a bike, and you said you had a 4-wheeler. You went to a bike. Did you make the jump from bike to full size or bike to side by side? What did it end up being for you?
Once again, money coming into play and working all the time. The DS80, sold it, and then when I was 13, 14, we had an option between a CR125, an 85 model, or an 86 CR250. Mm-hmm. Well, my stepdad jumped on the CR125. He said, well, the clutch is slipping on this one. Mm-hmm. And, they're the same size. motocross bikes sit identical.
Right, yeah.
But this one right here seems like a better bike. So at 13 years old, I was riding an 86 CR250.
Woo, man.
Yeah, I would pull up to the neighbor's house, and I had my tree to where I would lean it up against the tree, and I had my center block that I would stand on to start it. But,
yeah, I believe it.
that was straight to the wolf pack right there, brother.
Yeah, no kidding.
Sharp learning curve.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Now, I've only been on bikes a handful of times, but something like that, depending on how much you weigh, it can really throw you around. That sounds like a lot of bike.
It was a lot of bike. Back then, I didn't realize how much a tire really worked.
Yeah.
So the tire was pretty bald.
Yeah.
I never put a tire on it. Racing motocross, you put a tire on every round,
right.
every practice or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I never knew. That's probably the reason why I didn't get slammed around much.
Yeah, that's
because it spun everywhere I went.
I was about to say, it's kind of nice. Sometimes ignorance is bliss, and you end up in a better situation because you don't know any better.
Exactly. I could agree with that. Yes, sir.
So after that bike, what came next for you?
After the bike, sold it to buy my first truck at 15, and then got away from it because I co-opted in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I would leave at 16 years old. I would leave school at noon and go to work until 6, 7, until the job was done.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And then I kind of got away from it all there at a young teenager, completely just working and trying to get on my own and everything.
Mm-hmm. So now, you said you got a truck? Did you start building your truck to be lifted and big tires, that type of thing?
I was the exact opposite, brother. I had a lowrider.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
But getting the truck and then driving, you kind of move away from that unless your family races and you're completely involved all the time, because maybe your dad races or whatever.
Right.
It was more about we were involved in construction work and things like that. But at 11, I saw an MMI commercial come across the TV screen during a Supercross race, and I made my decision then that I wanted to be a motocross mechanic as a kid.
There you go. Yeah.
Grow up to be a motocross mechanic.
Yeah.
And I was working towards that goal. And then, just doing kid things, making decisions, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Finally had an opportunity to walk into the Yamaha shop here in, the local town, and they were hiring.
Yeah.
And I took that job, and I took a $2 an hour pay cut to follow my dream.
Yeah. Yeah. Now there's something to be said too for putting something, something that ultimately came to your dream as being a mechanic like that, putting it on hold so you could go do construction, because, I think that I was very aware as a teenager as well as, you go in, you work, you put the hours in, and eventually it'll pay off and you'll get to where you want to be. Now, whenever you were out there working and you were thinking about, I just want to be a dirt bike mechanic, I just want to be around the environment, all that, what was that one moment that you were like, that's my dream, this is how I know I'm going to make it when I go do what? What was it for you?
Well, whenever I was in the high school and college was on the table, or your career future, my parents would tell me that being a motorcycle mechanic was a seasonal job.
Mm-hmm.
They rode street bikes, is what they done, Harleys and things like that, and they typically they rode seasonally. To them, it was a seasonal situation. And so they really wouldn't invest into my future there because they didn't really see the success that could be obtained, because they thought it was a summer job, and then in the wintertime you're basically going to be starving or looking for work.
Yeah.
But and that kind of really I took it the wrong way. I was very offended because some of my siblings were in college or had went to college and things like that. They really invested into them. And then, so I kind of got offended, and I kind of made my own way, but still working the whole time. And then one day, I think when I was 19 or 20, my mom came to me after we sit in a class together, and she said, go do your thing. And I I really think that those words in particular, that's when I got the job at the Yamaha shop, and things just, I really want to give, God really had his hand in where I'm at today right from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a firm believer that, everything is exactly how it's supposed to be, and everything will get done exactly the way it needs to. And I think that that's a great mindset to have. And, you mentioned that your siblings who were going to college, almost got, seems like they got favorited or had favor in your parents' eyes. So I have a degree in software engineering and a computer science degree. I went to college, and if I could tell, my children when they come of age, college is not for everyone because you can do anything you want. And sometimes we're seeing nowadays that college just sets you back a little bit further sometimes because people are coming out of school with debt and all this and that. But, just to hear that you went out on a limb and you took the opportunity to be, a step in the direction of the dream that you always wanted, that's inspiring to so many people because the dream for some people doesn't involve college, and there's a lot of, there's a negative connotation with that whole idea of not going to college out of high school or not achieving that and things like that, and it couldn't be more backwards. Exactly,
I agree.
So many people, especially nowadays, can make their way and can do anything they want outside of a college degree. So, knowing who you are now, I would say that definitely was the right decision and definitely paid off for you. But
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man. So just going on, you got that job at the Yamaha dealership. Where did it go from there? How did it spiral into where you are now, where you're just, you own your own business and it's going great for you?
So worked at the Yamaha shop for about 18 months, and then when this was kind of a reality check because in the wintertime they did get slow and I had to go back to construction work for a year.
Yeah. it always hurts.
Here we go. So point proven, but they never give up.
Yeah.
At that rate, we built the church and it took exactly 12 months. Like I said, once again, God was involved there.
Yeah.
I had a call to be there to build that church, and then so after that 12 months, I went and applied for a job at the Honda dealership, and they accepted. And then, so now I'm off. I took another pay cut, went back, back into the motorcycle industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked there for about a year. But the problem with that is you have all these other technicians that you can ask without finding on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So the learning curve inside of a dealership with all of these manuals and all this technology is really slow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I worked there for a little while, and then one of the other technicians said, "Hey, man, I'm going to start my own business." And I think he probably picked me because I was going to be the cheapest labor.
Yeah.
And so I went to work with him in just a private setting, or public shop, but no dealership.
Mm-hmm.
No manuals to look into, no other technicians to fall back on. 100% trial and error learning.
Right.
And I worked there for about a year and a half, and that was 2002. And then I saved my money. I started buying and selling motorcycles. He let me use his road frontage out there to retail motorcycles. Well, next thing you know, I have 5 motorcycles and, a couple $1,000s in the bank, and I'm ready to make my move.
Yeah.
I've been working at the house. I worked at the house, but, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I didn't have a cell phone or a pager back then. I was 100% focused on staying right and building a company.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that, that particular schedule, 70 hours a week for 3 years.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, not 3 years, 18 months.
Ooh, still.
And then I had my money built up. At the house was 45 minutes away from my job, so I had my own clientele built.
Yeah. And
finally I had enough money, and I was like, I'm ready to go out. And kind of broke ways with the guy that I was working with. And, I can't lie and say I didn't cry on the way home because I just quit my job.
Right, yeah.
Just stepping 100% out on faith there, with no money, And, I mean, with no financial backing, just my skill set, my determination, and a couple motorcycles to liquidate his assets and about $3,000 cash. So.
Yeah. That being able to step out on your own is one of the most terrifying things. And I know a lot of people dream about, that day that they get to own their own business or what have you. But how empowering was it when you started to see that ball rolling? Because when your business starts to pick up, did that initially just right out of the gate happen, or were there a little bit of dry times? How did it go for you?
Well, I haven't had a lot of jobs in my life, but I have a little bit of common sense. You never want to quit your job until you have another one.
That's a really good idea. For anybody listening, keep that in mind.
You're right. So don't ever walk out on your boss unless you have another job, because finding one may be a little bit longer of a process than the one you just left,
Yeah.
But the time that I was there, and as integrity, I told my employer, I said, man, I'm working on things at the house, but it will not interfere with your business, and I will not take anybody from your company, and I'm 45 minutes from the house, and I have a whole other county in the state that I'm dealing with. Well, so that I was dealing, 3 hours a night, 3 nights a week, and then, so I was building a clientele and a name. And, so when I stepped out, I'd had a customer that would bring me units, and I just moved right into a location. It was a terrible location, but I had probably 5 or 6 units to work on when I walked out. So.
Well, that's good. So you had the ball rolling just a little bit there.
I did. I had the sales ball. I had the retail ball. I had the service thing going.
Yeah.
But to still walk out and be like, hey man, I just bought a $600 computer. There goes about a quarter of my income. Savings.
Yeah. No, I completely understand. I actually at one point started my own. It was a software company that ended up not taking off like I had hoped. So, I eventually had to go back to the corporate workforce, and I know how good it feels and how hard it is, and it's for you. It seems like it continued, but just how hard it is for those who do choose to go out on their own, and then eventually just have to make the wise decision to, you never give up on your dreams, but sometimes it's all right to put them on the shelf away for a little while. And
that's exactly right, yes, sir.
And it's a great feeling to have your own and be your own boss. And if there's anything that comes from this podcast already, I hope that it's people get a little bit more motivation to step out and continue to pursue their dreams of working for themselves, because that's the best time I've had in my life, without a doubt, in regards to work. But
just don't step off into the UTV industry. I don't coach you to do that now, right?
Yeah. No, don't do that. That's pretty funny though. So speaking of UTVs, at what point did you transition from having your bike shop to the UTV world? Did you have an 800 when they first came out, or when did you jump into the game?
Oh man, 08. A friend of mine is an entrepreneur just like myself. This guy, there was a doctor in town that bought the very first red RZR 800. Yeah. And I remember seeing it in the yard there at the Yamaha dealer, Polaris dealer. And I was like, wow. I'm driving a 95 Ford Ranger at this time. And I couldn't even haul it probably. So anyway, this thing goes off the shelf, and then next thing you know, a good friend of mine, one of my mentors, shows up with a green 08 800, and then he's blowing through money, and he's got 2 red 08 800s. So now he's got a fleet of 3.
Yeah.
And after so many miles, they start coming apart.
Yeah.
And I think one of his daughters grew up and lost interest, and I ended up with one of the very first 08 800 that came to town that the doctor bought. I ended up with it.
That's amazing.
So at that rate there, we're in the UTV game now. So.
Yeah. So did you just start with repairs, or did you start carrying parts? I mean, at that in 08, there's no parts for them. You basically go out and you have to deal with Polaris and go from there. When the 800 hit and you got yours, was it something did you see the future that the market was going to be? How did it go for you?
I didn't see the market there because they were so expensive. You know, in '08, the four-wheelers were starting to get really expensive.
Right.
And then '09 is when I bought that unit from him, and it was half worn out. And then I went out in 45 minutes without checking the oil because it was nearly a brand new unit, you know, at that rate. And, man, I blew the motor up.
In 45 minutes?
In 45 minutes, it ran low of oil, and I smoked the motor, and it cost me another $1,500.
I was going to say, do you drive that hard, or was it just ragged out a little bit?
No, it was just low of oil. It was burnt. I mean, who would have thought that in '08 would have been worn out at that rate?
Yeah, no
500
kidding.
miles on the clock.
Wow. So, did you, you know, obviously the 900 comes out and then the 900 XP. Did you have one of each model? Was this something where you're, you know, it just kind of accumulated over time, or, you know, did you start dealing with them more, riding it more, and got more interested in them? How'd the progression go?
Well, in '08, '09, I had that unit there, and the guy that I bought it from, we had kind of a falling out a little bit, and you know, he was the guy that everybody rode with. So I kind of got out of it actually until like 14.
Really, that's a long time.
There was about 3 or 4 years that I would work on them, but I wouldn't ride them. I was into rock crawling at that rate, which is a blessing because I've learned some skill there, you know, in the rock crawling. So instead of riding razors, I was into low gear rock crawling at that, you know, during that time because I didn't want to hang out with that guy. We're over it now. Like I said, he's one of my mentors. But so I got out of the razor industry and went into the rock crawler thing.
So what kind of rig?
They don't really mix.
Yeah, no, they definitely don't. I'll tell you. What kind of rig did you have for when you were rock crawling?
My first truck ever that my stepdad gave to me was a Ford Bronco, an early '73 model. Yeah. And I still have a place in my heart for that particular body style.
Yeah, I believe it. Those are just pretty trucks.
Yeah, and I bought a '77, and I put tons, low MP 431 transmission, or 435 transmission, and we took off to the rocks, me and my wife, at that rate. So.
Yeah. Now, did you guys mostly go local, like around parks near you? Did you guys ever go out west and do like the Rubicon or anything like that?
We never went out west. We would go local, 250 miles away. Like we went to Land Between the Lakes. We would go to Wind Rock. We would go to Gray Rock. You know, just within a couple hours driving distance. Which at the time that was, you know, far for me. You know, compared to now. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's definitely a drive to go ride, and then, you know, in a full size unit, I feel like I used to build Jeeps I had a Jeep and I actually had 3 or 4 of them, and my last one had the Evo Off-Road Evolution spec King coilovers on it, the whole 9 yards, and I just couldn't stop breaking stuff, and I got so pissed that I sold it, bought me a truck, and then got me a razor. But you know, going from that rock crawler back into the side-by-side world. Did you ever do any competition rock crawling or race rock crawling, races in those vehicles, a full size?
I didn't, man, but I had a truck. I had that thing built. Yeah. Perfect. It would never break, and it done everything that I ever pointed it at.
That's awesome.
It got to the point to where it wasn't built good enough before we were about to get hurt. Yeah. And then I just got out of it there and then got back into the UTVs because I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. Right. I could just buy one. Mm-hmm. And another funny thing is the shop door that I'm at now, and I've been there for 12 years, it's only 6 foot, 7 foot wide, and I can't. Every time I have to work on a full size unit, I'm out in the weather. Yeah, that's awesome. So I told my wife, I said, "Look, this thing's bad to the bone. It does not break. It does what we want, but if we continue to get more aggressive, I feel like that we're going to get hurt." And so I parked it, to restore it, and then somebody come along and offered me, some money for it, and I just rolled it on out because I was back in the UTV game at that point. Yeah. So you said that's about 2014 that you came back to the UTVs. Yes, sir. What was your first UTV when you came back? Or did you still have the 800, or was it long gone? Oh, no, it was long gone. Good. That thing actually has came back to me. Really? Like 3 other times, yes. Another guy, a friend of mine, bought it, and I think I rebuilt the motor, rebuilt the transmission. Man, that thing was the very first 800 in town.
That's awesome.
You know?
Yeah.
But it had a lot of work done to it. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's amazing, though, that it just it stayed around that long.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's gone now, actually.
It'll come back and haunt you. Don't worry. After this, somebody will hear it and they'll bring it back to you. But,
if it does, I may just buy it back now. So.
There you go. It never hurts to have another machine. So
Yeah.
You came back. What machine did you get when you came back? Because the 800's gone, the full size is parked. What'd you come back to?
In 14, I was trying to get back into retail, large unit retail, sales, and I got on to Coparts, and I tried to move some units there.
Uh-huh.
And then I bought a couple units that I didn't know that there was things wrong with them because Coparts, I wasn't there. I was just buying them by picture.
Yeah.
And I'm not a dishonest individual. I don't lie. And then buying something that I didn't know and then having to market it to the customer.
Right.
I did it. I did 2 units like that on the same buy, and then I just didn't feel comfortable about it anymore.
Yeah, no, I
So
understand
we moved a couple units. Those units have been great for those customers. But a friend of mine across the street in another business had bought a 14 XP 1000, the Black Pearl edition.
Yep.
And man, that 1000 was a kind of a wake-up call to a lot of people because they would go out and run it like a four-wheeler, and they would be upside down or hurt or sliding down the asphalt or flipping across the yard because the power to weight ratio, a lot of people weren't ready for that.
Yeah, I agree.
So he goes out one Friday night and he slides it down the highway, and he comes back. He goes, "Hey man, I don't want it." And I've got pictures of that on my social media. I bought it, really good deal. Drove it probably 5 minutes around my shop, and then I put it back up for sale and made a couple dollars off of it.
There you go. Oh gosh, that's awesome. So what's the machine you actually ended up keeping, or because that's 2014. Really, that's not too long ago.
So I took that little bit of profit, went and bought a White Lightning 14 model.
Okay.
And that's when I was off to the races then.
Okay.
The White Lightning 14 is the one that hung around for a while.
Yeah. So what was the first race series that you came out and raced in?
Man, the very first event was down at Chocolate, and it was the straight up side by side series.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what are the hills that they used to race at that park?
Man, I don't get into the names.
No, that's fine.
And even at King of the Hammers, if you ask me what course this is, I just say, another one.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so, I don't get into the names, but they were a minute and a half short course.
Okay.
Timed events, so, it was cool. But at that point, man, it was over with. It was over with.
Yeah, so it seems that, I'm just looking at your social media over time and whatnot. You definitely prefer the endurance racing versus the hill climbing. Is that correct?
It is. Man, I don't have... I'm successful now, but financially, back in 14, for me to buy that car, that Polaris RZR there was a stroke.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then to go out and buy a buggy or have a buggy built, that was a stroke. And so I dealt with what I had to deal with back, I can't say back, it wasn't that long ago. So, I was just doing what I could to have a good time and race. So.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And, I think we've talked about it before on the podcast that for you to go hill climb, it's a huge investment because, like you said, you got to get a chassis. You basically have to build the thing bomb-proof. And the endurance racing, it's not much easier on parts, but it's a little easier to hold your machine together in the grand scheme of things. If you take a tumble on the endurance course, worst case scenario, you break an A-arm or something like that, tie rod, rarely something worse than that, but you go tumbling down a hill in a hill climb event and it could be your entire machine is totaled.
Yeah, you can total a machine either way. So I want to tell you that.
Yeah.
But back then, you could run a minute and a half short course and not total your machine, maybe break an axle or two,
right,
or a front diff or whatever, and then transmission starts coming apart. But with the hill climbing, you take one bad tumble, man, and you're totaled.
Yeah, yeah.
So and I never had the money. I needed to go ride after the event and then ride the next weekend.
Yeah.
So I never really got into the Bounty Hill thing.
So you got into the short course stuff. What came first for you? Did you get another RZR, or did you get more serious and start entering different events? How did that progression go for you?
I think I just worked harder and made a little bit more money to where I could add more parts. So I would rather run short course because I like motocross racing, and I like flying that car through the air, at 50 to 110 feet, and that's more my thing rather than racing a clock back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say, especially down here in the South, endurance racing is getting a lot more prevalent, but we don't have too many tracks or too many places where you can go and just run your rig and just go air it out and have that experience. I know a lot of guys, a lot of guys have never jumped their rig like that, got a chance to run it on a course, or even if they have jumped their rig before, I'm sure they've, snapped an axle. I know the first time I aired out my buggy at Adventure Off-Road Park, I ended up coming back with 2 snapped axles just because, I was nervous about flipping over and making sure I was level, but ended up landing with my foot on the gas and, say goodbye to my rear 2 axles.
Right, landing on the throttle.
Yeah, you bet. I hit a little harder than I thought I was going to as well. But, so, moving on from the straight up side-by-side series, tell me about, your rig that you were racing. Was there anything that just, immediately broke, immediately stood out? What was the inconvenient thing to fix? What did you run into when you were racing about your machine?
Once again, we went to an SRS event at Stony Lonesome, and I was trying to climb. I was climbing the hill, and I flipped over on its side, and I made a couple more throttle notions than I should have, just kind of like entertaining the crowd.
Right.
Little did I know that once again the oil came off the oil pump, and the motor ran dry probably 15 seconds.
Woo!
Minimal amount of time.
Yeah.
I was just hitting the throttle because I had a nice throttle exhaust system on there.
Yeah.
And they flipped me back over, and I rode the rest of the night there. And then I come to a short course race at Stony, and during practice, the crank came apart in the XP1000.
Whew. Now that's not. That's the center. That's literally the center of the motor. What? How did you, when you looked back at it and you saw that your engine was just trashed, what's the first thing that goes through your head?
I don't have the money to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one right there. I'd say that's probably the most common one.
Yeah, I didn't have the money to fix it. But we made it happen, and we built it better. We were probably one of the first ones to have a big bore motor and cams and ports and things like that in that motor. So
for you, those upgrades were, let me roll it back a little bit. That big cam and that big bore that you guys did to that engine, how, compared to stock, how much was the difference? Was it super noticeable? Was it kind of noticeable?
It was a lot more noticeable. I think we probably, without exaggerating, at least 25 horsepower on
that setup. Ooh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I bet you. So, did you really feel it in the top end, or was it just faster all the way around?
Faster all the way around, and it made a lot more noise. A lot of people could tell that something was going on. And then, we did that, and once again, I'm trying to get into the short course as far as open track, side-by-side racing. I go out the next event, and I land with my foot on the brake over a double, and I backlash the transmission and blow the transmission out.
Oh, my God. Man, that's just bad luck, back to back.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. 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 So, and then I'm like, where am I going to get the money to fix this?
Yeah. So let's see. So in the first break you had was the cam, and then you broke the transmission. would you say that those were the components that you found failing you, more than anything? Did you end up fighting those for a long time?
Well, the motor was my fault because I didn't check the oil.
Okay.
After rolling it a
Sure.
couple times. And then the transmission, man, we do probably 3 transmissions a month because of that 45 on 45 pinion mesh.
Yeah.
It just wants to separate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good design. It works, but it really is a bad design as far as trying to unmesh, and it just goes right out the side of the case.
Yeah, well, I've seen it more, I've seen it all the time, really. We'll go out riding,
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Cases break and pinions and the output shaft breaks, everything. I mean, I've seen every part of that whole thing blown apart. But for, I would say, the other 75% of people, they seem to hold up pretty good. But,
Yes, 75%, yeah.
You get into that racing. When did it go from kind of having issues and kind of the mindset of like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to, fix this or that, or to, now you have a full-fledged race team that, you mentioned you're going out west, you've got a car out west and you've got a car here in the east. When did that jump happen for you, and what was the difference? What made that jump happen?
I mean, going back to breakage and things like that, that same 14 White Lightning, at this rate, I've already had, after that breakage, I fixed it, upgraded, and then I wrapped the car, and then I put Razor 8 on the side of it, and we had a really sharp looking car.
Yeah.
A really fast car. Now the transmission is built, and I went to another race, got excited about it, man, and came out and was leading that main event with one of the fastest guys in the Southeast behind me, trailing me.
Yeah.
And man, went over another jump and broke the transmission again.
Again.
Again. And he was right on me, and I was racing as hard as I could. I didn't care what happened. I was in the moment. I was in the lead. And then all of a sudden, the car bound up and stopped, and he slammed right in my back bumper.
Yeah.
And then third place came around, and he won the event. They thought it shut down so fast that they thought that I brake checked the guy, and I'm like, man, I'm leading. Why would I ever be on the brakes?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just the outside looking in. And then after that thing, I had the thing wrapped. Beautiful car, team ready. Man, I went out and bought a brand new 17 turbo.
Yeah, here you go.
Right after that.
Made the jump, didn't you?
Well, I saw the 17 turbo outrun the 16 so bad that day that I was like, man, I got to go get that thing there, because my car, naturally aspirated, would run with a 16 turbo, with a tune. But then the 17 came out and it was just off to, lights out. Faster.
Now, what did they do between 16 and 17 turbo that made that big a difference? Because I actually had a 16 turbo, and that's my only experience in the turbo, and exactly what you just said. I went from a turbo to a 1000 Razor buggy to now I'm in a 1000 full body, and I wasn't really, there was some difference, but I didn't really think there was that much difference between the turbo and the actual 1000.
They they added more compression to the motor. They cammed it differently, and then they added more gear to the transmission.
Okay, that's good.
So I think they tuned it differently, and I'm not 100% positive, but I'm thinking it was pushing 20 more horsepower straight out of the box.
Lord, man,
Yeah.
that's a super noticeable difference there. That's interesting.
It is, yes, sir.
Yeah. So you get the turbo and you get your 1000 set up. You had both rigs at the same time, correct?
Man, I put that 1000. It was on jack stands for about a year and a half.
Okay.
Me wanting to fix it, but I was already. At this rate, we're trying to build an Ultra4 car that'll last with a 17 turbo.
Yeah, absolutely. So you shift the focus from that 1000 all the way over to this turbo. How did you guys? You have a blank platform; it's brand new. How did you guys go about building it? What was step one for you guys?
Step one was getting that brand new wrap off that broken car and transferring all of the vinyl and the plastics over. Thank goodness. That's one good thing about a Polaris, is a lot of the components swap out from year to year, man.
Yeah.
And if you've got the great components like special carriers, manufacturing suspension, you know, and then the Rhino 2.0 axles and stuff like that, then you can move it from car to car.
Yeah.
And for me, once again, working on a budget, I didn't have to buy things every year because I made that initial, and it would just go right from the 1000 to the turbo, and then we're off to the races again.
Right.
So just changing out the vinyl or the plastics over to that, and then changing out the suspension and the cage, and everything just moved right over. You know, we're ready to race again on the turbo.
All right. Well, you know, you got the rig race ready. Where's the first place you took it? And before we ask that, what year is this? By the time you get this turbo set up, is it 2017, 16? Where are we at?
This is 2017. Yes.
Okay. So you're in 2017. You just got your new turbo all put together. Where are you going? How does it start for you?
Man, a friend of mine, Bill Hilliard, called me and he said, "Hey, I'm going to run GNCC." I'm like, "All right." And I'm having conflict. As far as I've got a newborn son here, and I'm like, man, I just cannot leave with this shorter notice.
Right.
So I start looking, and Ultra4 has been on my mind just a little bit. Not that I didn't even know about it much. And I said, look, man, I'm not going to be able to go to this race with you because he needs a co-dog, so he couldn't go without me. I said, I'm not going to be able to go here, but in 3 weeks we can go to Oklahoma and race. And this will be the first round of the Ultra4, and then we can finish the whole season. And you don't have to have a co-driver, so we can both race. You know, I don't know how I would have done as a co-driver, but one day I'm going to have to suck it up and get it done because I've had a lot of guys sacrifice to do it for me. But anyway, and he agreed to it, and next thing you know, man, we're traveling 12 hours, which is the longest trip I've ever made to race.
Man, that's a long
time. And then that's our Ultra4 first race right there. It was back in 2017 in Oklahoma.
So in 2017, you went to Oklahoma to race the Ultra4. I actually interviewed another Ultra4 side-by-side driver, and he mentioned that Oklahoma, it may have been in 2017, that was his least favorite race he's ever raced. Was that the year that it was just full of mud?
Man, yeah. I'm just a guy from Alabama, and I pull up. You know? Yeah. And so, dude, there was like tornadoes, which from Alabama, that is a serious thing. I pull into the hotel, and I'm like, where's the storm shelter?
Yeah.
And, you know, Mr. Patel probably said right there under the staircase. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Man, it is psycho weather, and so automatically, it's right where anxiety is high, and it rained like 5 inches the night before the race.
Help. So it's raining like that, you know, your machine's prepped, and you guys show up at the park the next day. When you get that first look at the race course and you realize, you know, it's going to be just a slop fest, what goes through your mind? I mean, is it, like, what do you guys think? How do you guys change anything in preparation?
No, we didn't have anything to change. I mean, when we first pulled up to race, the creek getting into the park was overflowing. So everybody that didn't stay on site was stuck on this side of the creek.
Oh my gosh.
I'm the first one to the creek, and then all the other, even the officials pull up, and I'm sitting there with my window down, and you know, almost about to go back to sleep because we're stuck. And then Dave Cole, Ultra4, you know, lead man there, walks up, and I don't know who he is. And so they're all talking and this and that, and you know, just whatever. And I'm sitting there with my window down. I'm the first one to the creek, and they're like, I said, man, they're not going to start without me, are they? You know, because I drove 12 hours to race, and I didn't know who I was talking to. I was talking to Dave Cole. Yeah. And he goes, of course, Dave Cole fashion, I hope if you listen to this, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. He goes, what do you mean, what are they going to start without you? And I'm like, you don't think the promoter's going to start without me, do you? I'm like, he's like, no, I don't think so, because I'm standing right here. I'm like, okay. I said, what's your name? He goes, I'm Dave Cole. I'm like, well, I'm Dustin Robbins. You know, I didn't know. Once again, man, I'm just a boy from Alabama, and it was Ultra4 racing. I wasn't into anybody who's who or anything like that. Still, I'm not, but it was kind of funny.
Yeah, no, that's
everybody looked at me like, you don't know who he is? I'm like, no, I don't. And then another guy was walking back and forth across the creek, and I said, look, man, I'm from Alabama. I stuck it in full low and crossed the creek first.
Lord help.
And it really wasn't that bad.
Man.
I guess they just didn't want to deal with it, so I crossed the creek and I go over and take a 30-minute nap while they do a detour.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
It was funny.
So I'm sure that made a lasting impression on Dave. So I'm sure that he's now got your face and your name pretty well recognized. But
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys, you take your nap and you guys are getting ready to race. You guys are getting out there. After that race, during that race, where did you guys finish? How did you guys place? Because I feel like the first race that people do is always so important. It sets the tone for their entire career, really.
So, getting ready to race, I thought Ultra4 was like Ultra 4 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to race all day.
Yeah.
But that course, wet, is just, it's a learning curve. And I don't even give any of the secrets out because I've already raced it 2 times. And
Right.
Everybody kind of learned last year. They were making mistakes
Right.
that I made the first year. And I was like, well, I knew it, but I couldn't tell you. Because
Yeah.
I'm here to win.
Yeah, no, hey, absolutely.
But that first race, I had a full gear bag, I had an air compressor, tire plugs, spare tire, things like that, and it was a 3-lap event, and then on the 3rd lap, I was in 2nd or 3rd, and I had a flat tire, and I was probably 2 miles from the finish line, and I was like, man, this would be the time, I'm not winning, to jump out and repair the car. Just to go through the race pace of what's coming next race.
Right.
Well, I jumped out, I tried to plug the tire, none of that worked, but I was in and out of the car, and I realized at that point, a lot of time is getting back into the car and getting strapped in. So you got to really consider how you're penalizing yourself on time to repair a minute situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or can you push it to the end and keep the car together and finish the race? So it was a learning curve that time.
Yeah, so, okay, you get out of the car, you realize you have this learning experience. Hindsight's 2020. If you only had 2 miles to go, do you think that if you were in that position now, that you would have just hammered down and finished 2 miles with a flat tire?
It wouldn't have mattered anyway. I'm glad that I realized that it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I still finished the race. I still finished in the position that I'd gotten out of the car and back in. I was passed one time by my teammate, Bill, was there racing with me.
Yeah.
But he had made a mistake on course, and it penalized him 1 position. So I would have lost a position, but I still was in the same spot, and it gave me the opportunity to jump out and see kind of like what needed to be done and how quick of a pace as a mechanic I could accomplish it.
Yeah. Man. Well, that's always good experience to have, and that's good experience to kind of get your mindset straight. Because especially in King of Hammers, those really long races, being able to practice working on your rig under pressure is huge. Because
and that's exactly what I was going for that day. Just being under pressure, full race pace, trying to finish, trying to be competitive. I wanted to get out, make sure I had everything lined out because I wasn't in first place.
Yeah.
I didn't know what place I was in. But I just wanted to get out and see how I could handle the pressure, man. And that like you said, that's very important when the adrenaline's pumping.
Yeah, absolutely. I know if you're ever under any pressure, it seems like you can't get the tool to fit right, and you get frustrated, and it just blows up into something crazy. But so you guys go to Oklahoma, and this is 2017 still, correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
So where'd you guys finish in 2017 year? How'd that go for you? What'd you learn? Just in general, how'd you guys close out that season?
So I went. The next race was Badlands, Indiana, in Attica, and I kind of learned that the course was kind of ill marked, and there were some things that got turned around backwards on. Me and another competitor ended up hitting head on at like 55 and 55, so that was a pretty traumatic experience on my second go around.
Was everybody okay?
Everybody was okay. We had full safety gear on, Hans devices and things like that. I hit so hard that my tongue came out of my mouth and hit my teeth and busted my tongue. That's the only thing that wasn't strapped in.
Man, that's crazy. How
that was a wild impact.
Yeah, how was the machine?
Two machines were total.
Wow.
Total.
Wow.
Absolute losses. So.
Wow. So did that end the season for you there, or were you able to get another unit and get going again?
Man, I tell you, it really ended the season for me to be competitive because now I'm really checking course markers and things like that to where I've got it in the back of my head. If I come around now, I don't feel like I'm racing on a one track.
Right.
So we move on from Attica, Indiana, to Kentucky at Bedford at Dirty Turtle. We had a really competitive car, and we were doing really well that day, and I had a belt break. We kind of did something wrong on trying to keep the belt cool. Mm-hmm. And we ended up clogging it up, and then last lap, we were probably running top 5, and the belt snapped.
Man, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking. So, 2017, where'd you guys finish on that Ultra4 season?
I didn't even pay attention to the points there because I knew that it was kind of off.
Sure.
And I'll be honest with you, up until now, man, I've always just raced for the experience and the fun.
Yeah, that's great.
I may settle for third place because I know I'm going to podium, in the past.
Yeah.
But I do have a lot of breaking news this year is we're going for the, first place. I'm tired of these number 3s being on my shelf.
Woo, boy, that's what I like to hear.
Get rowdy with it this year. We're either making or breaking. Finishing is not in the question unless it's first.
There you go. Now that kind of competitive spirit's how you end up on the top too. So let's go ahead and jump into it.
Go ahead.
King of Hammers. How'd it go? Tell me about it. It's actually funny. Before you get started, I have a picture from someone I found. I don't know, it was one of the media outlets, and I was sitting at my desk today in my office, and little did I know, I have a picture of 2 RZRs going through what looks like Sledgehammer or one of the trails out there, and surely enough, it's your rig. And I just laughed to myself because I was like, that's pretty funny. He's been on my background since King of Hammers, and wouldn't even have thought about it until I started reading the panels. So how did King of Hammers go for you?
Man, it went really well. So at this rate, we've got a little bit of coin. I've got a couple businesses. Just continually. I've never had anything given to me, and so now we've got. My wife is on board because now the UTV industry is starting to kind of pay off a little bit because of the All Things and the RZR thing and all that. And then me and number 211, Michael Lee, the MRT driver, we flew out, and I drove out, he flew out, and we did some pre-running back at the first of the year. Mm-hmm. Just to go out there and learn how to go fast. I mean, the guys that win this race, it's in their backyard.
Yeah.
There's nothing for them to load up on a, 15-foot trailer and go do the course every weekend if they want.
Yeah, that's very true.
So Michael and I, we went out there, and I just wanted to, get used to going fast in the whoop section, and I'm pretty good in the rocks outside of being in outer limits.
Yeah.
So we just get the car tuned and ready. The car's built. Our entire program is out west. All we got to do is fly back. Well, so we come back, and we work on the car. One of the other promoters come up, and he's like, "Man, are you done yet?" Because it was 15 minutes before we left the line. I'm still over there running zip ties and things like that.
the finishing touches.
I know he's making fun of me, man, but as a mechanic, this thing's got to be perfect for what I'm about to do with it.
Right. Right. So you guys are 15 minutes before you start King of Hammers. You guys, obviously, you make it out on the line. Tell us about it because, we've heard, if for those who listen to the podcast regularly, we've heard about the desert section being something that's totally new for the guys out east. And like you just said, learning how to go fast is such a big, it's just such a big change from what we have out here out in the east. And, how did that first lap go, that second lap, and then eventually the lap that ends you in the big giant rocks?
Everything went well because, like I said, we had a little bit of training between Michael and I, going fast. Mm-hmm. And then knowing what I was looking for in my suspension. We already had all of that stuff in the bag. So the first lap, I mean, I think we went from qualifying is what killed me. So we did decently well in Ultra 4 in 2018. We finished top 3 on the East Coast.
Very nice.
And we walked out in 23rd. I say we walked out. We didn't finish. We were in 23rd position when we timed out from King of the Hammers on our first attempt. So I'm pretty confident. And I walked away that day on the way back to the airport. I made 10 notes that I needed to do different for 2018 or 2019. And so it was a very small scale of what we had to do different compared to 2017, or let's see, 2018 to 2019.
Right.
So 2019, 10 things we had to do different. And it was very simple. And that was, just those 10 things. And one of them was to go pre-run. So we learned how to go fast and have that suspension dialed and tuned when we showed back up for the race. So lap 1 was really, it was pretty easy. I mean, just go and keep the car together.
Right. That's one thing that I feel like is just, it's so hard for guys out east. You really got to get out there and just get it done, because you're exactly right. The guys that live there, they do have such a strong home field advantage, because it's, like you exactly said, it's nothing for them to go load up and go run the desert or run the rock section just any weekend. But it's so different than what we have here in the East, that really, from what I've heard, you just got to get out there and experience it for yourself.
It's very fast.
Yeah, I'm sure.
A lot faster than anything we could ever deal with around here.
How fast are you averaging out there? When you look down the speedometer and you're like, we're moving, how fast you going?
Well, as a manager, I want to, I set the pace with the co-driver, and I say, look, man, we're gonna run 75 miles an hour.
Woo, man!
And that's it. Which is, that's a pace there. And the cool thing about it is going right out into the lake bed at first.
Yeah.
A car came around me, and we were running 70,
man.
And he was running 80, and he made it. We saw smoke blood of his clutch cover.
Yeah. And
we could smell rubber burning, and he went probably another 50 yards, and he was pulling off the course.
Man.
So automatically, I was like, man, my co-driver and I, that's what happens right there. So just do what we had discussed to do, and we'll make it to the end.
Man, going 70, 75 in a RZR, I definitely know they're capable of doing it, but that's so fast. That is so fast, and you're exactly right. I mean, I don't know of anywhere out here where I would feel comfortable going 70 miles an hour in my RZR. That's crazy.
But it looks like it's about 15 miles, but it's probably only about 3 or 4 at that rate. But
yeah,
and it's another thing. It's just like muscle memory.
Yeah, that's true.
Once you do it and you live out there, or you go practice doing it.
Yeah.
My motto last year was a Sunday drive. In 18 and 19, I told my motto this year, and this is what I repeat back to myself in a long race, is this is another day at the office, because I already been here.
Yeah.
And it was another day at the office, so running 75 and maybe bumping 80 was just, something that we've already been accustomed to doing. Here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get in the desert, you're successful there, you get into the next 2 and 3 laps. How'd the rest of the race go for you?
I really enjoy not utilizing my pit, because that means I've done my job as a mechanic. We've all done our job. I've done my job as a survival driver, keeping the car together. So I always like it when they're out there waving their hand, hey, we're right here, and I just keep on driving like, hey, what's up, buddy? It's kind of funny. They all get a kick out of that. So we did not take fuel.
Okay.
Coming back through remote pit 1.
Okay.
And they're at this rate, they're like, hey, man, you said you were taking fuel, but I had a special kind of gauge in my car, and we had it calculated that 1 mile meant a certain meaning, and it was dead on.
Yeah.
So we made it all the way back through lap 1 on a factory tank, no adder, no nothing, all the way back to main pit.
Man, how many miles is that first lap?
The first lap, I think, was it 60? or 83 or
That's
something
crazy.
like that.
I mean, even
83 miles?
that's just unheard of. That's mind blowing to think that you cover that, and let alone the stock gas tank, but just that you're covering that so quickly as well. That's mind blowing. Absolutely.
So we had an advantage there. I mean, not utilizing the pit. Now I had to back off on the last 5 miles because every time that we would take a sharp right-hand turn, and this comes from my short course days.
Mm-hmm.
Short course, I would want to run a light car with minimal amount of fuel.
Right.
Well, a couple times that had bit me in the side there because the fuel would run off the fuel pump on a right-hand turn.
Okay.
And the car would blip.
Uh-huh.
So on the way back, my co-driver was unaware that I knew this, but we would take a right-hand turn and it would bop, 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 bop. And then we would come out the right, hill climb, downhill, whatever.
Yeah.
So I would hit that with probably 30-40% more throttle, and we would make it out the other side all the way to the finish line. We were on 0.
That's crazy.
On the first lap.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
I bet. So you pull into that pit coming around for lap number 2. Did they have to do anything else other than fill you up with fuel?
Nothing else. They filled me up with fuel. My gas jugs had a problem, so we had to do some different things. We lost about 5 minutes refueling the car. I didn't spend the money on the high-dollar dump cans. I didn't think that would make or break a race, but there was one valve in there that was causing a problem. So that cost me probably about 5 minutes in that pit, but those guys did exceptionally well.
That's good, man. It's crazy. As a driver and a co-driver, you really do rely on your pit stops as much as possible and the pit crew. But that's pretty impressive that you made it back in one good sweep there. So you go out for lap 2 and 3. The lap 2 has rock sections in it, correct?
Correct.
So if I'm not mistaken, lap 1 is primarily desert. Lap 2, you have some desert, some rocks, and then the third lap is primarily the rock sections, correct?
Well, in UTV, we're just running 2 laps.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
Lap 1 is, Cougar Buttes and then desert, and then we go into lap 2, which is desert, and then you get into the into the other side of Hammertown there, or Johnson Valley, which is a lot of rock canyons.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you had rock crawling experience. It really helps you. When you're in West Coast rocks, it's a little different than East. So I haven't been out to Johnson Valley before, but just in my experience talking to the other drivers, they say it's just not like the East. The rocks are different. And how would you explain that experience going through all those big rock sections?
It's a lot more traction there, so you can flip the car quick, it goes really well. And I didn't ever bring this up earlier whenever you asked, but I do have some cross-country motocross racing experience.
Yeah.
So in that right there, you're running 30 miles an hour through a goat trail, and you're on alert nonstop picking that line.
Right.
Here's a slanted tree laying across the trail. You got to square up on it. And all this does rain, whatever. So I don't have a problem picking lines in the rocks. Not at all. So we've got that mastered, but that confidence kind of kicked me in the rear end this year because I said, man, we didn't have any problem in the rocks until we got to outer limits. And I feel like the 30-inch tires that we ran in 2018 was my problem there. So we've got it mastered now, and I didn't pre-run any of those places. Well, little did I know that they are a lot easier for the lead cars because everybody pulls up to the 5 or 10 obstacles in the course, and they spin. Well, when they do that, they blow all the dirt out.
Yeah, they sure do, don't they?
The obstacles become 2 feet tall to 4 feet tall by the 20th car that comes through.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
And that's really a lot of what happened to us.
So what ended up happening when you guys get in the rocks? Did you find it a little bit harder than you expected? What happened?
Well, in the rocks, we caught all the cars that were in front of us. So we started 66 because of poor qualifying. It was raining. I made a poor tire choice during qualifying. I geared the car lower for the rocks, and then I geared it even further with smaller tires. So the car just hardly would do anything that I wanted it to versus the other higher gear car. Mm-hmm. So we started out 66th place on the day, for the race of King of Hammers. Mm-hmm. We come up to the rocks, and that's when everybody starts getting congested.
Right.
Well, we make a line choice, and automatically there's 20 cars right in front of us, that are broken or dealing with obstacle that they couldn't get around.
Right. Now, I mean, is that not just so frustrating for you to get stuck like that, knowing that you're still in a race?
Well, it's frustrating to me because I know I could have qualified better, but I made that choice. Mm-hmm. And once again, man, I'm just an Alabama boy, and I'm happy to be here, so I'm not getting excited. I know that we're only getting into the hardest part of the race. Right. This is where it's make or break.
Right.
And it gave me an opportunity to get out and look at the car. I did find one bolt that was broken, so I was able to bypass all the pits and ask for help, and then I was able to catch it right there and get out and fix it myself without losing valuable time.
Right, because you're sitting there anyway, so you might as well get out and look at the car.
Get out and look at the car. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a really wise move. So, did you guys actually end up making it through the rock sections? How did that go for you?
Man, we breezed the rock sections, and then we were single track behind about 5 other cars. They were having a lot harder time than we were because now I'm into my element where I know to go fast. Mm-hmm. I love charging downhill wide open. I don't have any regard about that. A lot of people never get used to doing that.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to get used to.
I mean, I just love it. I just let the car do what it's going to do. And then it's hard to get around these guys because they feel like everybody's as fast as the guy behind them, obviously.
Right, yeah.
So to get these guys to convince to get out of the way because you're faster, takes a little motivation. And finally, there were some moves that we were able to make. And then at that point, I think we were up in the 31st position from 66, like midway, half lap, second lap.
Yeah. That's a substantial jump. So, did you guys, make up that ground in the rock section only?
We made that ground up by, like I said, car management, pit management, and mainly just keeping that pace, man. Like I said, just another day at the office.
Yeah, that's a great mindset to have. So, you guys ultimately made it out of the rock section, correct?
We did, yeah, about a hair of our,
Because I know. Go ahead.
I brought up outer limits earlier, and I will be pre-running that like 5 times for 2020.
Okay.
But that thing right there, man. Once again, I told 2 years in a row when the co-driver gets back in, he and I both were just sitting there apologizing for the way we talk to each other. Because you're like, you can't communicate, and it's just, you want to do this, that falls apart. You want to do this, it falls apart. And to run that clean and be out in clean air, qualify well there's no doubt in my mind. I think we probably would have been top 10 easy. But
yeah. Well,
I made a joke. I said, brother, the outer limits is the outer limits of mine and your relationship. Outer limits of my religion, possibly my marriage.
Oh my God.
And outer limits of a lot of things in life. But now that I'm out of it, we can proceed down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all can go back to being friends, I'm sure.
It was bad. It was rough.
I'm sure. I know there's times when I got my buddies spotting me, and I about want to rip their head off whenever it looks like I'm not doing something. And it gets confusing. I can't hear them. They can't hear me. And it's pretty easy to get that way. So I definitely understand. So, King of Hammers, where did you guys finish? How'd the third lap go for you? I'm sorry, not the third lap, but the rest of the race. Did everything go pretty swimmingly and you guys crossed the finish line?
Well, second lap, we once again, we had a mix-up with our pit, and they thought that we were out and ready to go for the remainder of the race. They didn't realize that we came back through remote pit too, and we did. And before we headed off into those rock sections, I wanted fuel.
Yeah.
And they were not there.
That's a little inconvenient.
It is very inconvenient. Now, I probably could ask anybody out there, and they probably would have given it to me, but I just was kind of mad they weren't there. So we took off into Spooners, and we were so dialed on the fuel percentages on our gauge there that I was like, bro, we're 4% off finishing this race by gauge.
Oh.
Man, and then, and it's all downhill Spooners. and it's not that big of a deal going downhill. But then we've got 13 miles back to Hammertown.
Yeah.
And at that rate, man, we're both praying, and he's like, "Hey, go slow down," and I'm like, "Well, we're in time here." And I think I ran 55 miles an hour with the steadiest foot you could ever imagine, because every whoop you would want to go bop, 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 and I'm just holding it that way, not in and out of the throttle, just trying to conserve as much fuel as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys kept the machine rolling. Did you end up making it back with the limited fuel?
We came around the right-hand turn before the finish, and the car blipped once again, and I knew better. So we hit it a little faster than we should have, and we made it through, thank goodness, and we made it on to the checker flag there. And
there you go.
And then I told the guys, I said, "Man, this car's been on zero for probably 2 miles here, bro." Woo. And everybody was excited, and and a couple of them said, "Man, let's just push the car across the stage, just for the fun of it, whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever, man. I'm tired. Let's do it."
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's crazy. It's amazing. I can only imagine the relief that you got whenever that car comes across the finish line, and even the team camaraderie to be able to push the car up on that big podium in front of the big screen, and just to be there and to finish is an achievement all of its own. So did you say you timed out, or did you guys actually end up placing?
No, we placed 22nd place.
22nd place. So that's amazing. And again, for all my listeners, I say it every time I talk to King of Hammers with anybody. Finishing King of Hammers is an achievement on all its own, let alone placing at all. So congratulations, top 25, top 22 if you want to be specific. But that's incredible, Dustin. That's something that's completely unheard of.
Well, it's good, and that's what we were trying to do this year. Next year we've bought the same car that won.
Oh yeah.
Not the exact same car, but one that is driven by a family member of the person that won.
Very nice.
And then this year, so there's going to be a lot less work, and as far as involvement, and the car will already be out west.
There you go. That's a
where
great
it can
setup.
be in my backyard now. So the car is going to be in their backyard, but I can go out and fly out, grab the car, go out and practice and things like that. It's almost like King of the Hammers, man, just consumes your life.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Everybody I talk to, it sounds like it's for a short period of the year, it's everything. But they spend the rest of the year thinking about how they can prepare, and it consumes your mind for sure.
Yeah.
So you end up finishing King of Hammers. You're headed out very, very soon for another race. Is this your first race after King of the Hammers?
It is for me. I've been dealing with a back injury that I've had since I was 19. I've got a pinched nerve in my back.
Ooh, that's not good.
And I've bypassed surgery, and I've been kind of lethargic for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You don't have to really be physically fit to drive a UTV. But now the physical things have came in. I've gotten a little older, and it hasn't went away quite as fast as it usually does. So I've lost about 17 pounds.
Yeah.
Been doing some core training. I've always been a weightlifter, but I've not been able to lift weights. So I'm, kind of on a little bit more of a stringent exercise program to bypass surgery.
Yeah.
Because 2019, the sponsors that I have this year, I've got the best sponsors and the biggest sponsor opportunity in my life, and all of a sudden I'm dealing with this physical ailment.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't have any control over it.
Yeah, no, it's funny. That sounds like a story that, I don't want to say it's common, but, right when the good stuff hits, you get challenged with something that's going to try and bring you down, but I know, when you have faith and you continue to persevere, you sound like just an incredibly hardworking guy, and you're not going to let anything stop you. You're just going to come out that much better on the other side.
Yeah, and once again, like I said, core training, light cardio, weight loss, which, the lighter you are, the faster you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, that's a big thing.
So we're down in weight. My back is doing better. Warm air's here. And, I bypassed the first Pro Rock race. Let my co-driver drive my unit there. He finished top 10.
Very nice.
So we're in the points chase there. I don't have any problem with that. I can't be mad.
Yeah.
Because every race is a different race for everybody that's in top 10 positions.
Yeah.
And then we were able to pick up that car from the West Coast, and now we're right back in the program that I had lined out. All the contracts that I signed with my sponsors, I promised them these races out west. The back issue came into play, but the more I walk and the warmer the temperatures get and the more I work out, the better my back gets. So we leave Saturday, the 16th, I said that earlier, to go out west for a week of vacation and kind of walking and tourist. That'll help me even more.
Yeah.
And then next race for me is March 25th, Metal Cloak Stampede.
There you go. So, going into that next race, what's on your mind? Is anything particular going through your mind about holding your machine together, what you're doing to prepare? What's going through your head?
Well, like I said, I bought that machine, and now I have, usually we touch every bolt on every machine that we build, and we recipe the build.
Yeah.
But this car is an exact replica of what just won the toughest one-day race in the world.
It's true.
So I don't have any problem. Of course, we'll do a bolt check and kind of put a couple things on there that we want to do that even the winners didn't know to do differently. They had a little bit of a problem with King and Hammers, but we didn't have. So we're going to do a couple things to even make it more reliable, just with our experience, so it'll be even more bulletproof. My mindset going into 2019, man, is I've got a 5-year-old son here, and every time I get on the phone with him after a race, he's like, "Daddy, where's the trophy?" And I've got a couple number 3s on the shelf, big number 3s, and I look even back as a kid in the soapbox derby at Boy Scouts, man, I got 3rd place back then.
Yeah.
So I was digging through some memorabilia from my childhood, and even back then I got 3rd place, so I'm kind of mad now.
Yeah, well, hey, man, be pissed off and get a reward from it, Don't just be mad to be mad. And
right.
I think there's always something good that comes with a little bit of fire under your feet. So
I'm definitely fired up this year, bro.
That's good.
Can't say make it or break it, but I'm not settling for just a podium this
I like
year.
it. I actually love to hear that. That makes for good. Just as being a fan of all the leagues, that makes for good entertainment, and that makes for good, I cheer on you guys all the time, so that kind of fire to know that you're pushing just as hard as we want you to win, I have good faith that you'll do everything you need to do.
Yeah, and I think I've always settled because I'm always, like I said, once again, I'm just a guy from Alabama, and I feel like it's just a blessing to be even in the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, it's just a thrill to be even at this point, or with these cars, or with these guys, or with these sponsors, and with this team. And I made the decision, after I lost the championship, East Coast Championship, I was very humble. I was 45 points in the lead going into Bedford, Kentucky last year in the Ultra4 East.
Yeah.
Making a run I was 3rd in nationals. And I was kind of getting, like, I've got this, blah, blah, blah. I guess I could say my head got in the way. And at the bottom of that tree stump, right next to that mud hole, I was like, Dustin, you ain't got it. You're just, you're not in that much control. I mean, anything could happen at any point. You got to race every lap and realize that, God's going to push you to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a very firm believer that, like I said earlier, you'll end up exactly where you're supposed to end up, and I believe that the Lord rewards hard work. And it sounds like you've worked your way to where you are now in life, and you're taking the steps to make your race team, parallel all your hard work and effort. So I have no doubt that you'll see success this year for sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. But while we've got you, just to wrap things up, I do want to talk about your businesses. So you've got AllThingzUTV, you have Razorade, and what else? You said there was another one?
I've got a full-fledged powder coat shop. It's called Apex Powder Coating. We've got the largest oven in town, so we've got AllThingzUTV. We started out with Full Throttle Power Sports, which is my storefront and my service facility and my counter part sales. And then we started Razor8.com, which we transitioned into AllThingzUTV.com. And then a certain product that we sell there, which is our tender springs, require powder coating. So I bought a powder coating company out. And now, so everything kind of is hand in hand that works together.
Yeah, and I think that's that's an awesome thing to know that you have your product that you guys promote. You have it from basically beginning to the customer's hands. So I think that's amazing. But what I wanted to do is for my retail spotlight I'm doing, I want to ask the man in charge his preferences and things that he recommends for people's units. I would argue that pretty much everybody, in the realm, most people are either in a turbo, a 1000 XP, or somewhere along those lines. So I just want to ask you, if you're going to build your machine, if you had one that was built just for, your everyday user, starting from the ground up, what would you put on there as, let's start with just wheels and tires. What's your favorite combo?
I like the Journey tire because it's like a bighorn. It's good for the East Coast. It's really well for the West Coast, actually, too, because it's a soft compound tire. And it's, like I said, it's like the bighorn's really lightweight. Stays together really well. I mean, tire questions are really hard to answer because that's the point of contact between the steering wheel and the terrain that you're navigating, and that is all in the hands of the guy that is driving the car.
That's very true.
A lot of people ask me about tire quality and will it do this and will it do that, and I get the same feedback from my customers about tires. Well, they all cut sidewalls.
Yeah.
And then I go, look, man, you just can't take this thing down a trail without navigating.
Yeah, that's very true.
And if you cut a sidewall, it's not the tire's fault. You need to realize what scenario cut that sidewall and not do it again.
Yeah, very much so.
But outside, just to answer the question, I like that Journey.
Yeah.
I'm sponsored by Vision, but I'm not just saying that. It's a good price point. It's a good tread pattern. It's a very traditional tread pattern. And it's a soft compound. It's a good tire.
Well, good. What about wheels? What do you got in mind there?
Wheels, they're all about the same. I really think they're all built across the street from each other in China. And that's not big. I mean, that's real talk.
Yeah, that's the deep secrets right there.
That's the deep secret. I think they are. And so it's just all about styling with wheels.
Yeah.
Now you get into the wheel question is the wheel question. Yeah, I did say that, but not the real question. But
the wheel, I like that.
That's right. And then the warranty that comes with the wheel. How hard is it to successfully get a wheel warranty? That is the question you want to ask. I'm not going to give any company information out there as of now, but I mean that would be the question that I would ask whoever you were going to buy wheels from.
Okay, yeah.
And if they don't know that question, they don't know that answer confidently, then they have not sold enough wheels.
There you go. That's definitely a good way to look at it for sure. But we'll leave those wheel questions right there and just let them be. What about suspension? Who do you like?
I like Special Carriers Manufacturing. I actually bought my first set from Clint. And then he's given me a set, and then he's given me another set because I'm a sponsored driver, and I've proven, that we can handle it. But the thing about it is that the second set that he gave me, I actually left him on a shelf.
Yeah.
And he messaged me back. He goes, "Why would you do that?" I said, "Brother, because what you built the first time has been good enough for the first King of the Hammers.
Yeah.
What kind of testimony will it be when I do the second King of the Hammers?"
Yeah, no kidding.
He goes, "Man, if you want to do that, that's fine." I'm like, "Brother, I got full faith that we're going to finish this race with the same set that we had on entire 2018 race all the way through the entire Ultra4 Pro Rock series and into the 2019 race. It'll be all the same suspension." Now, keep in mind, I do own a powder coat shop, so I can blast and recoat per car, but it's all been the same suspension.
That's amazing. That's amazing, and I'm glad you put in there because colors may change, things may change, but it's good to know that those are the same. A arms and trailing arms, radius rods, all that fun stuff on there as well. So you mentioned also that you guys build that tender spring. That's one of y'all's main focal points, I feel like. Why would somebody want a tender spring upgrade? For some people, they don't know what a tender spring is. Will you explain what it is, how it benefits you, and what advantages you gain by having an aftermarket?
Well, Polaris had built or any car or OE manufacturer, when you get into the Pure Sport UTV, they have a dual race spring. It almost feels like a Reebok pump,
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah.
There was something on there that did something. It really didn't make a difference of what it was,
Right.
And so what we've done at All Things UTV is we've actually take that thing that it looks like it does something, and we make it actually do something that it's actually intended to do. It's just not a styling feature or just a sales pitch on the buy sheet.
So for those,
it's very simple.
Go ahead.
It's very simple. We just add a little bit of spring rating to the spring that's already there, and it functions like it actually needs to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those who don't know what the tender spring is, it's the on all the RZR shocks, I believe, most of them. I know some of them come with progressive rate, but if you have two springs on the coil, that top spring is the tender spring, and it's typically on a stock unit. It's completely compressed. It's just smashed all together, and you really don't get much benefit out of it at all. And what he's recommending is by adding a little bit more spring rate there, you actually expand that spring, and you actually help the spring do what it was supposed to do by being an active part of the suspension rather than just being, basically a 2-inch plastic puck that sits on the top of your shock.
Exactly right.
So that's good. Now, for our listeners, what's the price of, I know that some of them, like I mentioned earlier, some of those require a slider and an upgraded top spring. Some of them, like the turbos, you don't have to buy the secondary spring. What's the difference between those two kits?
Most of our 4-pack kits are $240, and that's from the General, Polaris General, all the way up to the XP Turbo Walker Evans Edition.
Okay.
There's a more expensive kit. In 2017, Polaris had gotten away from the front dual rate setup and went to a progressive rate spring. And when they done that, they took the slider out of the whole scenario.
So that more expensive kit just includes the slider and the upper spring?
That more expensive kit includes a lower spring.
Gotcha.
And then the slider and then the tennis spring in the kit as well.
Good. That's very good to let people know. And like I said, if you're not sure what's on your vehicle, just go out there and look at the front. And if you have 2 coils or if you have one, there's your answer right there.
Right.
So moving on, we talked about springs, wheels, and tires and suspension. What do you like to use for axles?
Going to King of the Hammers is a very expensive and long distance travel for, me and my team.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a problem with a Rhino 2.0.
Really? That's awesome.
Never. Now, going that far, it's kind of like, unfortunately, America and everything is kind of a placebo effect. You buy and spend the most money, you feel like you're getting the best product.
Right.
I feel like RCV has really got a great product. I've broken RCV axles, I've broken Turner axles, and I've never broken a Rhino 2.0. At King of the Hammers, the first year, we run a Turner axle with limit straps, limiting straps. This year, we ran RCV Pro 2s without limiting straps. Like I said, you spend a little bit more money, you get just a little bit of insurance, man, of kind of what everybody else does, and that's what you do. The thing about it is, I'm almost 100% confident that we could have ran that entire race and finished on a Rhino 2.0.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, in 2020, I'm going to make it happen because the Turbo S that I bought has Rhino 2.0 axles in it, and I'm confident enough in it that I'll get it done.
That's amazing, and that's a bold statement to say that that a set of axles is going to last you an entire King of Hammers because again that's the toughest one-day race that's ever out there.
Yes, sir.
That's great. So I'm looking at anything else. If you were just again recommending to the average Joe something else to put on their vehicle or an upgrade that you would prefer that you would have to have on yours, is there anything else that comes to mind?
Man, safety comes to mind. I've seen a lot of injuries in my short career, just spectating and watching and promoting. I would do doors. Full doors to keep your feet in, and then I would do harnesses, at least the auto lash from PRP. That they're easy to get in and out of. Their price point, $90 to $110. That way you're fully secure, and there's no questions because everybody wants to get in a UTV and they want to treat it like a foiler. It's just like a little hop hip thing. It's not that dangerous or anything like that, but it literally, little do they know that it's a car.
Right.
And you should treat it like a car, and it's more dangerous than a car because you're going to be content and you're going to be complacent, and the next thing you know, you're hurt or your arm's crushed or you're falling out of it or you're getting rolled over on top of. So, just keep in mind, just because you can buy a steering wheel doesn't give you the experience to drive an off-road vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Safety first, and then learn how to drive it, and then that way nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's something that we repeatedly talk about on the podcast is just safety, and especially investing in an aftermarket cage is something I always recommend, and especially harnesses. The stock seat belts again are just they leave a little bit of question marks in the air.
Right.
So
people come out and they overdrive it because they feel like they're in their car.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
I got my experience in dirt bike driving, full-wheeler, and then dirt biking and stuff like that, off-road experience, and they make it easy to buy a Polaris RZR, and then the experience is something that you got to experience, before you can be overconfident. But being in a cage and you feel like you're in a race car, or you feel like you're in something that's really secure, and that's where a lot of people, like I said, get complacent and they get hurt. Yeah,
absolutely. So for the more experienced person, I see do you guys carry RS1 diffs?
Yes, sir. That's one of our main products that we've really come on pushing.
Yeah. So, for those who don't know, they redesigned the differential in the RS1, and it's just a leaps and bounds better than most of the other options that are out there. So it's a great thing to have. Is there anything else that you would recommend? Because I always say overbuild if you're going to be hard on it. Is there anything else you recommend for someone that's a little bit more aggressive on their vehicle?
Outside of the RS1 diff or any kind of diff upgrade, that's about it. You get into more of a performance thing. You get into reliability issues, and I'm all about finishing the trail ride and, making it back to the trailer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a huge, huge thing. So I think that's great. But was there anything else that you wanted to highlight?
I just want to tell my story about where I started. It's not always been the limelight. A lot of hard work. It's 8:30 right now.
Yeah, and
and it's just I want to really tell everybody that it's a dream come true, and all of my customers and everybody that believes in me, and I'm over the fact that it's a dream come true, and now we got to go win. Outside of being complacent, now we got to go win this year and really show out for our sponsors and our friends and our fans. But really want to say I appreciate everybody that supports us, buys from us, believes in us, and realizes that I'm just like you, a blue collar guy. Maybe one of these days I'll have a jet pilot and a jet, but we'll all ride on it together, because my motto at work and in life is we all go up together.
I think that that's extremely admirable, and I think that anybody that takes the time to listen to this will definitely see that you're a transparent man who exactly that, just wants the best for everybody and for everybody to come up together. So, but Dustin, it's been a great chance to talk to you. It's been awesome to hear your story, and I hope that those listening have gotten a chance to be inspired to see that hard work can get you anywhere you want to be in life, and just good luck in this year's race season. And I know that we'll be floating around here. My team will be floating around, and I hope we run into you out on the trail. Are you going to be at Adventure Off-Road Park in April?
Yes, sir. We will be there. That'll be our first regional East Coast race.
Okay. And
in my opinion, I'm kind of there to defend the title that I lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm coming out swinging, man. We've got a car from Bikeman Performance that is making about 245 horsepower. Woo! With all the best suspension components on it.
Man.
And once again, navigating, keeping the car together. That'll be my first race East Coast to prove what I'm feeling, to win, take that number one. Now, am I cocky or bold enough to say that I'm going to win? I'm not, but I tell you what, I'm not giving anything up this year.
That's amazing, and like I said, that's the mentality that makes for someone you really want to cheer for. So I'll actually be at AOP. I may have a few people from my team there as well. We'll be running around doing interviews. For anybody listening, we'll be there doing interviews. And I know I'm going to have to make a stop. See, I'll be there Saturday, so I'll be there before race day, before you guys take off. And if I can steal you for a minute or two, I'll ask how qualifying went and how you think you're going to end up for the day. And, again, until then, best of luck. And if there's anything else we could ever do for you, if there's anything else you want to say, any more shout-outs you want to give, feel free. But I'm good. I think we touched on everything we wanted to talk about.
On the rocks on all platforms.
Yes, sir. Everything's great. Thanks for the interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dustin, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. And like I said, I'll see you in April.
Okay, thanks for everything you do for the sport, sir.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
From a new sponsor. So that one lucky person is going to win something awesome, and we'll draw that at the end of the Southern Rock Racing Series. Like I said, subscribe, like us, download, do whatever. It really does help us be able to further the content, and we can get some better equipment to kind of clear up some of the podcasts. But hope you enjoyed the podcast today. Be on the lookout for the next one, and thanks for listening.